Football Tailgate. It is Wednesday, February 4th, the first Wednesday of the month of February, a day that used to have much more drama to it, and now it's just kind of housekeeping at this point, really. But anyways, I'm talking about National Signing Day. That is today as we record this podcast, College Football Tailgate. I'm Dan Watkins, John McKechnie, here with me as always. John, I mean, it used to be nice to see all the hats on the table and what hat are they going to put on and all that kind of stuff, and now it's just really formality at this point. But how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I do miss the days of crazy signing day where, you got the whole gym gathered around, and the kid picks Florida instead of Tennessee, and then the mom storms out of the building, that type of stuff. The old Landon Collins at the Army All-American game. There so many good moments. That Roquan Smith versus the fax machine. The list goes on. We no longer have that on the first Wednesday of February, at least not the same drama. But even without it, I think we got a lot to talk about today.
Absolutely, but I think it kind of leads right into our first topic. I mean, National Signing Day is just something that's fallen by the wayside and been killed by the current college football calendar that we're dealing with, and this dilemma that we have in college football, where just the calendar is just a total mess. No matter how you look at it, I mean, the College Football Playoff just announced some of their game dates for next season coming up here, and that they're not going to be playing on New Year's Eve in 2026, that they're going to play one semifinal game on the 30th, and then they are going to play the other three on New Year's Day. So we're going to have a full 24 hours in between the first, quarterfinal game,
That's
and
right.
then the other three, all because college football is bending the knee, or I think a better way to put it is grabbing their ankles for the NFL, wanting to avoid going up against Thursday night football on Amazon Prime on New Year's Eve. Kind of pathetic. And It's kind of a puss move, I think, by college football. I'll just call it right out. To be afraid to go against Thursday night football on a streaming service where you don't think you can put up the same kind of numbers and get the same number of eyeballs on ESPN on a Thursday night for a playoff game compared to whatever. Who knows? That Thursday night game could be absolutely terrible for all we know in the NFL. But yeah, college football. And then, and I'm trying to kind of pick my way through this story here. After the quarterfinals, we're going to have 2 full weeks off before we get to a semifinal game, and then we have another 10 days or something like that until we get to the national championship game, which college football is not going to wrap up next season until January 25th. I think it's just absolutely pathetic.
It's really bad, and it's really tone deaf too. I mean, I guess it had been announced prior that the national championship for next season was going to be even later than this past year's. But everyone hated. The juice was gone by the time that the Natty arrived. Obviously, we were into it. A good amount of people were into it. And obviously, I think that the schools being what they were with Indiana, with the big alumni base in Miami, fresh blood, it was exciting. But at the same time, discourse-wise, it felt like college football missed the boat to have some juice. 2 rounds of NFL football were played between the semifinals and the final, and it just sort of takes some of the oxygen out. And they're college football is just you know what? Let's strangle even more oxygen out of this. Let's push it back later. Let's have bigger gaps in between our playoffs. I mean, it's going to take 40 days to wrap this thing up. I mean, that you're getting into NHL and NBA territory where it's just oh yeah, most of the season is just the playoffs. It's just
right.
It takes forever. So college football needs to kind of understand its fan base and the calendar as a whole, because right now, I mean, it's just you're stretching it out way too long to try to just be this mirror image of the NFL while also avoiding the NFL at all costs. And it's just sort of ultimately making a worse product for us and making the excitement, taking a lot of the excitement and electricity out of it generally.
Yeah, absolutely. And college football needs to figure out that the NFL, college football is trying to basically placate to the NFL and basically see, look, we're gonna give you the platform here. Just like, leave us something. Eventually, the NFL is just going to take and take and take and take more. Like, if you think that by leaving a big time spot, a big time TV slot for the NFL, that they're going to back off or leave you alone and leave you some spotlight games and stuff like that in spots for games, that's not going to happen. As we've seen with the NFL, they are as greedy gets. They will take every single night of the week if they could. They have taken over holidays that never were theirs to begin with, right? Like Christmas Day used to be the NBA's thing. Not anymore. The NFL's taken that. The NFL isn't just going to throw college football a bone here because college football is just backing off, saying, here, you can have New Year's Eve. Just leave us a little something. Eventually, the NFL, it wouldn't surprise me if the NFL tries to schedule a game New Year's Day on that Friday next year now. That would not surprise me at all. And then college football is going to back down off of that. Or what happens in a couple of years when New Year's Day is on a Saturday, right? And the NFL is taking over Saturdays now at the end of December and early January. That's not going to work. These two sides, college football needs to figure out their own. College football needs to figure out their own crap first. Right? And once they do that, then they need to go to the NFL and be like, guys, we should be working together, right? We are your feeder system. We are your future. You should be giving us some sort of a spotlight here so you can, get people more jazzed up for what's coming. And we can probably work together and make just some awesome weekends in late December and early January instead of college football just doing this weird dance and trying to stay away and stay out of the way and ooh, don't hurt us, right? They're the little brother that's just been bullied by their older brother constantly here. But it's just really pathetic, I think, what college football's done. As Brett McMurphy points out, Brett McMurphy from On3, that college football will play 11 playoff games over 39 days, right? And the NFL wraps up within 30. It's 13 games or something like that in 30 days. So just absolutely pathetic there from college football. Josh Pate of Josh Pate's College Football Show. Next season, he points out that the midway point of the college football season, right, from week 0 or week 1 all the way through the Natty is November 13th. That's the midway point of college football next season, which is it's just way too spread out. And I think you're right to point out that it's just you're taking that oxygen line and just stretching it so thin that it's just trickling out here, keeping you on life support, basically.
Yeah, like I was saying, I'm obsessed with college football. You're obsessed with college football. But to your average person, who gave a crap about the playoff by the time that it was over? Because there was just so much other stuff happening between college football games. It's just oh yeah, I keep forgetting that a kind of resounding theme, even from people that I know that do like college football, is I kind of have to keep reminding myself that the Natty's tonight. There was that element to it, and that I can't imagine that we were this friend group is the only people that had similar thoughts on this whole thing. So college football, by virtue of just stretching this thing out, I mean, I've always felt the second I know that the second Monday of January is kind of out the window now with the expanded playoff and everything like that, but the answer isn't the fourth Monday of January either. So figure it out. Please, please, please figure it out. I don't know what exactly you have to move around. I know some people with the Galaxy brains have come up with different ideas of when to play bowl games, when to start bowl season, what to do with conference championships, this, that, the other, to kind of make this all work. But this particular direction that it's going I don't feel like that ages particularly well.
Yeah, the calendar is broken. You have more and more coaches starting to sound off on it too. I know Lane Kiffin is starting to just do his normal Twitter retweet every single thing that's going on with all that. But I think as more and more coaches start to voice their opinions, I do think eventually we're going to get somewhere where something changes here. Hopefully it's coming in the next couple of years. But right now it's just not in a good place. I don't even like that the national championship game's played on a Monday to begin with. We are a Saturday sport, right, for all of fall. And then all of a sudden we play our championship game on a Monday night in January. I don't like it, but that's been the way it's been that way for a long time at this point. So that might just be totally, that ship has probably sailed. But anyways.
Yeah, college sports loves like the random Monday night championship, and they love starting it really late. I was happy this year that the game started at like 7:30, whereas like March Madness,
Oh,
that
that
game
one
seems
just
to somehow like tip off at midnight on
Right.
Mondays right now.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that one. That one drives me more nuts than anything that college football does. But anyways, we are College Football Tailgate. We'll be with you throughout the entire off season, and then as we get closer and closer to the season and spring practice, we'll start really diving in on some of these teams and conference previews and all that kind of stuff. Can't wait to get to that. We got a couple more spotlight teams that we're going to talk about on this week's show. But if you can do us a favor here, if you're watching, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. Totally free. All it does is help John and I as we continue to build this show. Subscribe on YouTube at College Football Tailgate. You can follow us on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you prefer the podcast version instead of looking at our beautiful faces. You can, just listen to our voice instead. That would help. At College Football Tailgate on both those platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25, or follow us over on TikTok at CFB Tailgate, where there's always a lot of fun. In the comments section, I saw last week, John, that our Miami segment that we did, Miami fans have gone all the way from, like we're back and all that kind of stuff to 10-2 would be a total disappointment next season. So
That's awesome.
I love that. I love that we're at that point with the U. That's great. So great stuff.
I mean, hey, go ahead. Go ahead. Like, who's stopping you? Who's stopping you from saying that 10-2 is a crippling disappointment now that you got Mensa, you're coming off a national championship appearance? Like, it's been building for almost a quarter century for these Miami fans waiting to be able to strut their stuff again. And, even though they lost in the Natty, they're still talking like this now. I love it.
So Miami was one of those programs from the early 2000s that was dominant, and it was on your TV screen every single week. And then they kind of fell off, and it's been a while since we've heard from them, since they've gotten back, and they have gotten themselves back to the national spotlight. They got to the national championship game this past season, and a program that I think is trying to do something similar and kind of fits that same mold, USC. The USC Trojans, right? We all remember the men of Troy and the Pete Carroll, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush days from the early 2000s. It's been a while since USC has truly been really relevant here. But Lincoln Riley, John, enters year 5 in Southern California. He has gone from 11-3 to 8-5 to 7-6. To a nice turnaround last season, finishing 9-4. He's going to get Jaden Mayava back for a second season. King Miller's back in that backfield, who kind of just bursted onto the scene. They have a great recruiting class. I believe they're number 1 when it comes to high school recruiting. That's according to 24/7 Sports. But portal, they don't really do a whole lot in the portal here going into this season. Number 52, according to On3. Gary Patterson's coming in as the defensive coordinator. They got some guys to replace in the wide receiver room. How do you feel about USC right now as we head into 2026?
They firmly have my attention, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that they did so well on the recruiting trail, because it feels like it's been a minute since they were like kind of a lock to be in the top 5, especially, in this particular era. It's like, are they kind of dividing and conquering between portal and high school talent? They went all in, and they end up with a really impressive class. Now, the numbers are going to say that like maybe a third of these guys are going to amount to anything at USC. The roster turnover is so crazy, but you bring in this number of guys with, this sort of like blue chip ratio talent, and like you have my attention. And I think if you have a good base, a good foundation already, like, you have an experienced quarterback, you have a good backfield, you have a defense now that should be better with Gary Patterson calling the shots. And it's like, if 2 or 3 of these guys, these freshmen, can be anything, that's something that can be like that difference maker. We saw it with Miami this past year. Like, it's not like there were a ton of freshmen that were doing stuff, but they had Malachi Toney. Now, we're not saying that there's a Malachi Toney that exists at all in every single class, and I'm not saying that it exists necessarily in USC's recruiting class, although people love this Mark Bowman kid, the tight end. I don't know if they're giving the Brock Bowers type of comp, but he's supposed to be pretty nasty from the tight end position. But all in all, I feel like this is like a huge year for Lincoln Riley. Of course, we know that basically since year one, fallen a little bit short of expectations. But I think this is the first year where we can say, like, okay, I have expectations, and I feel like they could meet them to at least some extent. Now, according to CBS, they've got 4 opponents on their schedule that are on their way too early top 25. They've got a couple of really tricky stretches in this schedule. They host Oregon and Washington back-to-back weeks at the end of September, early October. Then they have to go to Penn State, and Penn State will be, kind of 5 weeks into their season, new Matt Campbell era. That could be really tricky, depending on how things go in year 0 for Campbell. And then a little bit later on, you have to host Ohio State, then a bye week, then you have to go to Indiana. So it's going to be challenging for USC to top 9 wins in the regular season. But if things break right, maybe Oregon takes a step back next year. Maybe Penn State isn't as formidable as I'm painting them to be. Maybe Indiana takes a slight step back. 10 wins, I think, would be incredibly impressive from USC, and I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at their schedule. Now, one thing I will point out, just because I have to, and this is an itch I have to scratch, if you happen to count the number of games that are on this schedule right now, John, there's only 11 because, well, USC is not going to play Notre Dame this season. As of right now, they could come to a deal, I guess, at like the 11th, the 23rd hour or whatever. But right now, USC only has 11 games on their schedule. We'll see where they add that 12th game, who that 12th game is going to be against, whether it's an actual opponent or they play some FCS school. But anyways, yeah, where you point out those couple stretches, some things that I do like, though, for them, they get Oregon, Washington, and Ohio State all in the Coliseum this year, which I think is interesting. And if you look at how this schedule does set up, too, there is a chance for USC to be like 6-1 or 7-0 and really get some momentum here going into that back half. Because once you look, when you get to Halloween, that could turn into a real gauntlet, especially if they put someone. So right now you have that bye week in between Ohio State and Indiana. Let's say they add an opponent right in there, right? That first week in November, that's an actual, good opponent. I don't know who it's going to be right now. I'm not going to get way too deep into the weeds here with scheduling and all that kind of stuff in the month of February. But the back half of that schedule, I think, is going to be really tough. As we were kind of just talking about, they have a lot of freshmen that they're going to have to work in here. And you mentioned Malachi Toney at Miami. To bring it home to a closer to home example, like Lincoln Riley almost needs a wide receiver to emerge like Zach Branch did a few years ago for them when he was a freshman. And yes, it was mostly in like the return game and some gadget type stuff. But if they can get that out of one of these freshmen that they have coming in, I think that's going to go a long way. And I'm also pretty high on Jaden Mayava returning for a second season here at USC. He led the Big Ten in passing last year in 2025. I think he was like top 5 in the country. I do think he's going to have another big year here. And I do like the way this schedule shapes up for USC, where I do think Lincoln Riley should be able to get to 10 wins here in year 5.
We're not going to be able to apply the who have they played thing. I don't think there's enough meat on the bone with this schedule to where if they are able to get some of escape the first week of October undefeated, it's like, okay, this is looking like a legit team. And then last thing, got to mention it, from this recruiting class, they do have Booby Feaster, the wide receiver recruit.
I saw
in
that
this class, so maybe he's that guy.
A+ name, name, that's for sure.
5-star.
Regardless of what his the little number says next to his name on whatever recruiting board that you look at. Some interesting comments, though, by Lincoln Riley. He took a little not so subtle jab at the SEC when he was talking to Colin Cowherd, I think last week or maybe earlier this week here, talking about parity and how, with this revenue sharing era that we're in, that there's been a shift in the balance of power. And he says, quote, now there's not just one part of the country paying players, everybody's able to do it, and it's a great thing because I do think it's created a much more level playing field, and it's given schools the opportunity to really compete if they want to invest. Goes on to say how it's great for players and all that, but when I think of NIL in this revenue sharing era that we're in right now, in schools that I think should be coming back to the top, USC is definitely one of them. with their alumni base and the money that they have out there in Southern California and the location and the coaching staff and all the everything that USC has, there's really no excuse for USC not to be a power player going forward.
I agree. It's kind of embarrassing that it's been 20 years since they were like truly great. You know, it's a school, it's a program that should sell itself between all those factors that you listed: the history and the location, the uniforms, even like the stadium. It's an iconic football program that has not been living up to that standard. But I'm willing to, even with Lincoln Riley's little shade there, I do think there's a good chance here that the men of Troy here, get back into the playoff potentially this year.
Absolutely. Great 30 for 30, by the way. I love that one, with the USC one. If you haven't checked that out, definitely go check that out. Highly recommend. Once, Super Bowl's over and you're looking for something to watch going forward here as we get through the dog days of February and all that kind of stuff. So Lincoln Riley entering year 5 with some big expectations. How about a head coach that's entering his first season on campus, and what are his expectations? And I'm talking about John Sumrall. At the University of Florida. Sumrall goes to Gainesville, right? He has been successful wherever he's been in his career, right? 4 years as a head coach, 2 at Troy, 2 at Tulane, a career record of 43-12. He's never had a losing season. Now he takes over a Florida program that is just another one of these teams that was great in the early 2000s, and it's been a while since they've been really relevant and a big-time player on the national scene. And they're another school, John, that I think in this era that we're in, with their alumni base, should be a power player going forward. Might take a little bit longer for them to rebuild it. But Sumrall has made some interesting comments here over the past, week, 10 days or so, and even in the past 24 hours as we record this show. I guess he's taking down the logos everywhere, right, in the facilities there for Florida, and that the players need to earn the logo and all that kind of stuff. And apparently this is a page out of Urban Meyer's playbook, and Urban did this when he first got to Florida back in the mid-2000s. I guess Billy Donovan did this with basketball too, so this has been a thing at Florida in the past. John Sumrall trying to channel a little bit of that. I just kind of laugh, and I get it, right? And we both played high school sports and all that kind of stuff, and coaches just trying to find ways to motivate their players and get the best out of them and all that. I laugh, though, because there is a line in the ESPN story, if you go check this out, where they ask, well, how can they earn the logo? And he's like, I don't know, I haven't thought of that yet. So he's just kind of making it up as he goes. But Florida's in an interesting spot, right? They have the number 13 portal class coming in here, the number 15 recruit class, number 7 in the SEC if you're looking in the conference. They bring in Eric Singleton from Auburn, who I do think is a really nice pickup for them in the wide receiver room to go along with Dallas Wilson. Jaden Baugh's returning. But the big question for them is at the quarterback position. DJ Lagway's out. Aaron Philo, who you might remember was kind of the guy who would come in for Haynes King when Haynes King would go full warrior mode.
Was losing too much blood.
Right, and then would need a week off or, something like that. But Aaron Philo is on campus there at Florida. I guess you could put him in pencil. I would only write that in pencil right now as the starting quarterback going into 2026. But interesting, I think, season coming up here for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that they would be right to be patient and right to I know that they're out of patience, right, after the last couple of years, and arguably their best season in the last decade. They still lost 4 games back in 2020, with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts. So it's been a minute for Florida, so I understand not wanting to be patient anymore. I think Sumrall is going to be the right hire. I think bringing in Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech to be the architect of this offense, bring in his guy Philo, who is obviously familiar with the system that he runs. Those are good things. And Singleton, for what it's worth, is the holy trinity of schools that Georgia fans hate. Tech to Auburn to Florida. This guy's persona non grata to me. But but you look at the schedule, and you get a couple of cupcakes to get you started. You have to go to Auburn. Face Alex Golish. I'm sure they won't love seeing Alex Golish once again. You got to go against Ole Miss. You got to go to Mizzou. I think that a game like Mizzou or the week after against South Carolina is going to tell us a lot about, how we can expect this season to go for Florida. Like, can they get to 8 wins realistically? I think we'll kind of, like, if you drop the game to South Carolina, I think that you might be looking at that long proverbial year zero, because I think the back half of the schedule, like once you get into November, is kind of winnable. Like, I don't know how terrified I am of Oklahoma, especially with that one being in the swamp. You get Kentucky, you got Vandy, and Florida State. Like, I feel like you can kind of rattle off some wins and really capture some momentum going into the off season here, if you're Florida, based on the way that this schedule sets up. But some lumps, I think, will be taken in October.
Yeah, so when I looked at this schedule, right, the first thing that I'm thinking of is, since the SEC reconfigured and expanded a few years ago, like, Florida has just drawn the short end of the stick the past couple of years with their schedule and stuff like that. And then I look at this one, I'm like, it's not bad. Like, yeah. That's pretty manageable. And, like, I think you can work with this schedule if you're a Gator fan, and I think you can talk yourself into being bowl eligible in 2026, which I do think is a fair expectation for John Sumrall in year one. Now, this thing could get completely off the rails, as you were talking about, right? That little swing there at the end of September, early October with Ole Miss and Missouri could be a huge linchpin for how this season goes, where if, let's say they go into Auburn and they pull off a win there, right? And then you can split with Ole Miss or Mizzou. You go into that South Carolina game, either 4-1, 5-0. Like, Florida's going to have to do a lot of that work to get to bowl eligible, I think, in the first half of this schedule.
Yeah.
But it is workable. And one other thing that that immediately jumps out to me, and why this is such a manageable schedule for the Gators: no LSU, no Tennessee, no Alabama as well. So, like, there's a lot there for Florida fans to be able to, I think, to talk themselves into, like, we might be able to have a really good football season here if they can figure out the quarterback position.
Yeah, and I think there's reason to be somewhat optimistic about Philo again, able to run this offense, at least we think. I think Dallas Wilson, you don't want to overreact to just a couple of games, but he looks like he's the real deal. And then you get Singleton, you get Jaden Baugh. Like, there's a lot on this offense to like. They're going to lose a decent bit off of their offensive line. Sorry about my dog. And
he's fired up. He agrees.
Yeah, he's mad. He's a dog. So, yeah, no, I feel like that we're looking good if you're Florida for this year again, especially if you're able to navigate that late September, early October stretch. Because if things are on the rails, I think you can rattle off those 4 wins there in November and really kind of end the season on a high note.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we were kind of talking about, they are trying to figure out that quarterback position. One of the teams who I just mentioned that is not on Florida's schedule this year, which is a shame because this is one of the better rivalries, I think, in college football, Florida-Tennessee. The Vols, Gators will not meet in the regular season in 2026. But Joey Aguilar, who was the quarterback for Tennessee last season, is trying to get a 6th year. Basically, in college football. He is trying to say that his years at JUCO should not count towards his eligibility. He has been granted a restraining order against the NCAA here. That just came down Wednesday morning right before we were starting this show. Aguilar, right, nothing is set in stone here, but basically this is just the first step towards him being granted a 6th year of eligibility. And I bring this up also, too, because Sumrall kind of had some tongue-in-cheek comments at this, saying that, as they are looking for their quarterback for 2026, maybe Florida will file a restraining order to get Tim Tebow some more eligibility there as well. So Aguilar could be back in Knoxville this year. How this is going to play out, we'll see. I do think this will have some ramifications on the Trinidad Chambliss case as well, too. So this is a very interesting development, and I think ultimately it's going to be a good development for college football.
Let's see it, right before we came on here, this one quoting Pete Thamel over on ESPN, the NCAA's filing this week in the Trinidad Chambliss versus the NCAA case gives a window into what the NCAA's argument looks like. It includes collegiate sports will become ungovernable if eligibility determinations are instead the result of individual court decisions. So that's one of the angles that they'll be trying out this Chambliss case. We'll see how this Aguilar stuff pans out as well. And we'll also see if Tim Tebow can come back and play college football because, basketball is already going to hell in a handbasket and getting guys that have played in the NBA trying to come back in and play some hoops. So I'm hoping the college football can have its act together a little bit better, at least than the college basketball brethren. My God.
Absolutely. And speaking of needing to get their act together, what is going on at Florida State right now? Right, we got like a bombshell drop that like they're like what $73 million in debt, and that's just their athletic program going into 2026. Like Gus Malzahn's retired, right? They need a new offensive coordinator. It looks like they're just going all in on Mike Norvell, basically telling Norvell, all right, here you go, right? This is, if you can fix it, you're going to remain the guy, but like everything is firmly on your shoulders here to try to get the Noles back to some sort of relevance in 2026.
It's 2026 and beyond, right? So, I mean, like Florida State, they're really running a risk of becoming like the ACC version of Nebraska or something. According to Yahoo Sports, Florida State reported $437 million in athletics-related debt for the 2025 fiscal year. 71% of the university's debt came from athletics. So Florida State athletics on the field, off the field, bit of a loser right now. And, you know, like you were saying, Malzahn just sort of retires out of the blue on a Monday in February. Florida State has already been kind of like battling with the ACC. They got a settlement this past year where they're not going to be locked into that grant of rights deal with the ACC through 2020 or 2036 the way it was initially expected. But it feels like Florida State is just – they're positioned in a way that's a little bit difficult for them to compete. Like they're not a school that routinely like easily fills its stadium just because of where Tallahassee is relative to where the big cities are in Florida.
And renovations.
Yeah, it's kind of just hard to get to. I remember like the old meme of that guy just like sitting in the upper deck with no one around him reading a book. Like that's sort of what the Doak looks like. These days, they're obviously coming off of two abysmal seasons since their like almost playoff run a couple of years ago, and you can't really get out of this Norvell deal anytime soon. It's like kind of very like flat, gradual drop-offs to his buyout. Like he basically in his contract, it's 85% of whatever the remaining contract is. That contract runs through 2031, so it doesn't really get manageable until after 2028. Like for instance, like Brian Kelly or James Franklin, like LSU and Penn State, they have the coffers to be like $50 million buyout. I'm not even blinking. I'm doing it. Florida State can't do that. So like they're just sort of like they might be locked in for like 3 more years of Norvell potentially with no real resources and like there's just inertia matters in college sports. I feel like I know that quick turnarounds happen, but quick declines that can actually stick a little bit, those happen too. You stack another couple of bad years here in Tallahassee, it becomes like in the kids, they don't remember the last time that Florida State was good. Like this could get slippery in a hurry to where like I know a couple of years ago, like they were talking all high and mighty, like they're the class of the ACC, like the ACC's lucky to have them. They'll be lucky to have the ACC, right? And be a member here not too long from now if things keep going like this.
No, I completely agree, and especially with Miami reemerging as a national power, that's not good for FSU, and we'll see what happens at Florida over in Gainesville as well. If John Sumrall can have the success there with the Gators that he's had in his previous 2 stops in his career, that's also not going to be a good thing for Florida State as those 3 schools compete with each other to keep those kids in state in recruiting and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and now you look at their roster going ahead into 2026. I'm not very high on it. I mean, Ashton Daniels right now, you can pencil him in as their starting quarterback, I guess, as they just went into the portal, and that's who they bring in this season. Like, I think they might be in for a long season there in Tallahassee. It's just all on Mike Norvell's shoulders. And as we see, they don't have the money to buy him out. So it really is on Mike Norvell here going forward.
And like he even took a pay cut to like kind of help with roster resources and stuff. Like almost like a 50% pay cut. Not that he's not making nothing, it was like, he's still making like $5 million or something, but it's like he's trying, but like Florida State just like doesn't have its act together for this current era to where they had some like historical flaws or like holes in their program they've been able to work around. Like they've never been like the school that had the great offensive linemen, stuff like that. But there's that downward pressure because the rest of the schools that are figuring this stuff out quicker than them are putting Florida State at a bigger and bigger disadvantage year over year. And if you're just kind of having to go with this lame duck coach, who wants to go to that? Especially when you can't even pay me more than these other schools to go do that. So I've just been ruminating on this week, like the Malzahn thing, stepping away, just sort of like put it in my brain. Florida State seems like they are in deep, what, and I feel like it's not getting talked about enough.
Yeah, no, and I do think this will probably become one of those talking points as we get closer to the season, just because FSU is such a big brand, and to see them down the way that they are, and especially like that game against Alabama feels so long ago, right? Like, and it was only like 4 months.
The ultimate blip on the radar. The last 2 years, that's the only good thing that's happened to them.
Pretty much. Everything else has been a total disaster, just about, for FSU. All right, so as we start to wrap up the show here, it is Super Bowl week, Super Bowl 60. We got the Patriots, the Seahawks, Sunday night going after the Lombardi Trophy. I want to figure out a way to tie this into college football. And I was sitting on the couch the other day just kind of brainstorming, and I was like, you know what? Thinking about Super Bowl MVPs, right? I was trying to get my bet in, who am I thinking? And then I started thinking about where these guys went to school. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little research, a little deep dive on this. And my question for you, John, and for the audience out there, just to kind of kick this around, is which power conference has the best collection of Super Bowl MVPs? So we're going to go by the current setup and configuration here. We're not going to go back to where these guys were and what conference they played in when they were in school, just to keep it easy to the four. But anyways, I'll just fire them off here quick for you. The SEC has 12 Super Bowl MVPs. Bart Starr won a couple of them. Joe Namath, both those guys go to Alabama. Jake Scott was a safety for the Miami Dolphins. He went to Georgia. Emmitt Smith at Florida. Terrell Davis from Georgia. Hines Ward from Georgia. You got Peyton and Eli Manning, Tennessee and Ole Miss. Von Miller at A&M, and Jalen Hurts from Bama or Oklahoma, whichever way you want to categorize it. But either way, SEC. Next, you got the Big Ten. They have 14 Super Bowl MVPs. Now, 5 of them are from one guy, Tom Brady. But you also have Len Dawson, who went to Purdue, Franco Harris, Penn State. You got Lynn Swann at USC, Randy White from Maryland, Marcus Allen, USC, Troy Aikman, Desmond Howard, Santonio Holmes, who went to Ohio State, and then Malcolm Smith, the linebacker for the Seahawks 12 years ago now, Jesus.
Oh, God.
Went to USC. He is a Super Bowl MVP as well. So a nice collection there from the Big Ten. The ACC, they got 9 of them, right? Okay, you got Larry Zonka, who went to Syracuse. Biletnikoff went to FSU. Jim Plunkett, Stanford, qualifies for ACC. Otis Anderson, the Giants running back, went to Miami. John Elway at Stanford. Dexter Jackson, the Buccaneers safety, who won the Super Bowl MVP against the Raiders 20-something years ago now. Deion Branch at Louisville. You got Aaron Rodgers from Cal, and you got Ray Lewis from the U. And then finally, to wrap this up, you got the Big 12, who has 8 Super Bowl MVPs. 3 of them are Patrick Mahomes from Texas Tech, but you also got Chuck Howley, who went to West Virginia, John Riggins, who went to Kansas, Steve Young, who went to BYU, Larry Brown at TCU, and Nick Foles at Arizona. So, John, which group do you think has the best collection? And I just want to say this as a little disclaimer. If we still had the old Pac-12, I think they'd win this, right? You got like Aikman, Elway, Rodgers, Plunkett, like Marcus Allen, Lynn Swann, like that might be the best collection there of the old school Big 12 or the Pac-12, excuse me. But unfortunately, they don't meet the criteria here anymore for this.
Right. So this list, like the Big Ten, obviously like the most impressive, but then you look down a little bit deeper, and it's like a lot. They're USC and Tom Brady merchants. Like there's like
pretty much
like a Purdue guy and a Maryland guy. Like where's the Wisconsin? Where's like the spread of wealth within the Big 12? It's all concentrated again on Tom Brady, who like split time with Drew Henson during his time at Michigan for God knows whatever reason, and a bunch of guys from USC. So I like the list of ACC names. I think it's almost cheating for like it's catnip for me when Larry Zonka's on a list. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, Larry Zonka's. I mean, he was just so cool. I have some backup, with John Elway having won a couple of Super Bowls. Ray Lewis, of course, my guy. Deion Branch, I feel like he's a great like trivia answer for MVP. He totally balled out in that game. He should have
11 catches, 133 yards. I still got it.
This guy remembers. Dexter Jackson, low key. I thought Dwight Smith actually deserved it, but I think votes were in before Dwight Smith ran back his second pick six of the night against the Raiders in that Super Bowl. But overall, I like this list of ACC guys, and I can't separate history well enough in my head with the Big Ten list and all those USC and UCLA guys. So for me, give me Zonka and the boys from the ACC. That's my favorite collection of Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah, I like that ACC list too, but I'm just going to give the nod to the Big Ten. I mean, you get to bring in those USC guys. I mean, they're like,
you do.
It's kind of, it almost feels like they're cheating here on this list, but I'll go Big Ten as well, just because of Brady for me. But no bias there whatsoever.
None.
The SEC list is great too, but like I just can't give Peyton and Eli Manning any props. So that's just my own personal thing. But I do love that running back collection there between Emmitt Smith and Terrell Davis that the SEC's got going on. And then you go all the way back to like Bart Starr, Joe Namath, and those kind of guys too. But yeah, it's a fun list. Is there anyone like this year, right, when you look at the odds boards and potential Super Bowl MVPs, whether it's Drake May at North Carolina, Sam Darnold's a USC guy, Steph Diggs, Maryland, JSN, Ohio State, is there anyone that could like shift the balance here if someone wins, right? Like if JSN pulls off the Super Bowl MVP and you get that Ohio State and another guy added to the Big Ten, could that like change your mind?
Well, being from Maryland, if Stephon Diggs did the dang thing, I would be pretty,
That'd be 2 Super Bowl MVPs for Maryland, by the way.
See? So I think that would be my lane in which I would be pretty happy with the end result there if Diggs is able to get it done. Stephon Diggs, just an all-time crazy guy, but all-time Maryland player as well. So respect.
Been very quiet. As someone that's a Patriots fan, he is like I am hoping Steph Diggs emerges in this game because it's been a little while since we've really heard from him. He had 5 catches for 25 yards or something in that AFC Championship game. So would really like to see something from Steph Diggs. But yeah, it almost feels like I'm trying to think does the SEC have a guy that could be added to this list? I mean, you got Stevenson, right? Ramondre could potentially he's been just catching the ball a ton out of the backfield. But other than that, Hunter Henry, I guess, at Arkansas. But other than that, it might have to be a defensive line. Christian Barmore was Bama, but
Jared Wilson, your left guard.
There you go. Will Campbell, left tackle, right? I'm trying to think. Cooper Kupp, excuse me, is a small school. Kenneth Walker's Michigan State. That'd be a nice add for the Big Ten list. Travion
A.J.
Henderson.
Barner, two different Big Ten schools from him. Yep. So Keishon Butte, LSU. So yeah, this is. I don't know. I still can't decide how I'm betting this Super Bowl. I know you have your rooting interest figured out, but I can't figure my card out. But maybe I'm going to use this collection of Super Bowl MVPs to guide me a little bit further. I'm going to take it through the college lens for my Super Bowl MVP bets this weekend.
Very good. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. College Football Tailgate. Hit that subscribe button, guys. We'll be back next week to talk plenty more, as I'm sure there will be more developments, probably more so in the courtroom than anything else, but there'll be plenty to talk about. So we'll talk to you next week. For John, I'm Dan. Hit that subscribe button. We'll talk to you later.